can you apply what you've learned in different dynamic and changing environments? That's what our veterans do. They have to. You know, I can say I was a 92 Alpha tactical multifunctional logistician.
What the hell does that mean?
And people go, exactly that. I have no idea what, I know exactly what it is, but that doesn't do me any good. I might as well be speaking a foreign language.
Welcome back to another edition of Recruiter Fuel. Again, my name is Steve Loez. I am your host, coming to you every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we're continuing. Bill Kieffer, you're back with us again.
Great to be here. Thank you.
You're actually wearing the same thing I was wearing last time, so this is actually done in 2 seconds.
Funny how that works, yeah.
But so thank you again for having this conversation about this whole idea of veteran recruiting and the disconnect that we talked about. And we ended the last session where we were talking about in interviews, employers are often asking veterans, tell me what you did. Tell me a time when you did. And veterans often respond with, hey, this is what we did. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect. So we chatted about that, and that's kind of where we ended.
Yes.
I want to kind of continue in that vein, but change it a little bit. When you got out of the military, when anybody gets out of the military, what is the military doing to prepare you for the transition out of military into the dog-eat-dog corporate world?
Okay, great. The military has a program called TAP, the Transition Assistance Program.
Okay.
If I get it right, it's funded by DOD, congressionally mandated content, and it really is their attempt to help our veterans bridge the gap between the military experience that they've had and the civilian world they're about to face.
Got it.
It talks about a variety of things. How do you get into the VA system, medical coverage, and just finance, a whole bunch of stuff.
So how is that delivered to the vet?
Delivered at local installations by staff that's either hired or contracted that may or may not be veterans, that are trained in how to deliver the content. And they bring folks into a classroom kind of a setting, and they vary a little bit in how they deliver it.
Okay.
And they have a set curriculum of content they need to cover in a
Same
day
information.
or a period. Yeah, same information.
Yeah.
And it's more of a classroom kind of a setting.
Did you go through that?
I did 22 years ago.
Okay.
I find, and the feedback I've got from dozens and dozens and dozens of veterans is, number one, it's not sufficient to properly prepare them for their transition. It tends to be technical, tactical kind of things. How do I fill out this form to make sure I'm exiting properly in all these regards?
Got it.
How do I properly register with the VA? How do I, make sure our medical coverage is covered? Those kind of things.
Does it include anything about make sure your resume looks like this and make sure you rephrase your military experience in commercial terms and so on? Any of that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
It focuses on resume preparation, a little bit about how do you do networking, some practice sessions on how do you do an interview. But it's part of a larger curriculum. And bear in mind, our veterans, most of them, when they go through this, they're still on the job. So it's kind of a...
They haven't been discharged from the service.
They haven't been discharged yet. It's while they're on duty. It tends to be an opportunity that it's kind of wanting.
Got it.
There's good stuff. There's great intent. It doesn't get into the depth and breadth that really prepares our folks, our veterans, for entry into the civilian commercial work world. They just don't know the culture and the world they're about to enter.
So as a result of that, you've been doing some kind of one-on-one consulting or guidance, and I think some of it's even been for free to help vets.
I have.
What kind of things are you walking them through to help prepare them for the commercial world? Yeah,
the big focus, and I've developed this over a number of years. I got out 22 years ago, and I have always informally worked with exiting veterans to greater and lesser numbers, depending
even
on
at
the year.
Dana and Amcor and all those places.
Oh, yeah. And I've worked with veterans to say, hey, look, here was my walk. Let's talk about yours. And what I've found over all these years is that our veterans don't know the world they're about to enter. We prepare our soldiers before they go into combat with military mission planning and the intelligence prep of the battlefield. I used to teach that course when I taught for the Army. And it's all about understanding the various components and dimensions of the battlefield you're about to face. But when we look at the folks entering now, could say the career battlefield or that career environment.
War for talent right now.
The war for talent, there you go. I hadn't thought about that. There's not enough coverage of what that battlefield looks like. And it boils down to me to a lot of cultural differences. And some of them are obvious. You don't need a lot of infantrymen out here in the commercial world. You don't need a lot of artillery shooters out in the commercial world. but some of them are really subtle.
But aren't even an artillery guy or female or any of those,
Right.
aren't some of those skills still transferable?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So one of the things I was going to point out, and tell me if I'm right on this, and again, we've got this, everybody comes and says, I want to hire vets. We talked about this. And people are watching, yeah, we want to hire vets, we want to hire vets. Then maybe the interview bombs because it's the we versus I.
Right.
Let's say that doesn't bomb.
Right.
But then the feedback that I get from all of you out there is, I don't understand how the experience from this translates to this. I mean, you see that a lot?
Absolutely. See that a lot. And like any communication interaction, there's responsibility on both the sender and the receiver's part.
Sure.
The veterans that are coming out need to do a better job of understanding how to state their experience in the language that interviewers and hiring managers understand. You know, I can say I was a 92 Alpha tactical multifunctional logistician.
What the hell does that mean?
And people go, exactly that. I have no idea what, I know exactly what it is, but that doesn't do me any good. I might as well be speaking a foreign language, which to a certain degree I am. So there's a responsibility on the part of the veteran to speak the language of the interviewer, the hiring manager, the commercial world. But there's also a bit of a responsibility on the part of recruiters, sourcers, interviewers, hiring managers to understand the language of the veterans if they want to really tap into that great capable market. So there's work to be done on both sides of this equation.
The guy that I mentioned earlier that was a veteran that worked here for a while, had never recruited a day in his life.
Right.
So we first put him on the phone to actually recruit. Did very well. Never sold a day in his life. But the tenacity that this guy had to make the call, to talk to people, to connect with people. I mean, it was literally go charge the mountain and get us there. And that's the way that he kind of managed his day and executed from the morning he got here till at night when he ultimately left. And too many people, and he was an infantry guy. So too many people see infantry as, oh my gosh, there's nothing there that I can use in a role here.
Correct. And you know, I think that's what we got to get past. We as recruiters, sources, hiring managers, interviewers, we got to get past the surface level perceptions and get on to the capabilities that our veterans truly bring. You know, and I don't want to pick on our infantrymen because I love our infantrymen.
Of course.
But pick on any of the services, you know, an aviator, a pilot, a cook, you pick whatever it is. My oldest son's a parachute rigger.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah. I have 3 in the service, by the way.
That's right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, my oldest one's a parachute rigger for the Navy. My second oldest is a chaplain candidate. He'll be an Army chaplain, Lord willing. And my youngest is a military policeman.
No kidding.
Yeah, so take any of those 3 or any of the others and say, what did they do and how does that carry over? Now, for a military policeman, pretty clear, that's a cop.
Yeah,
you know, not a lot of
relatively easy transition.
Yeah, relatively easy transition. A chaplain's a chaplain. You know, they're all ordained ministers in whatever faith they choose to be a part of. That's a pretty easy What do you do with a parachute rigger? Not a lot of call for those, but if you look at the capabilities, the characteristics, the competencies maybe, beyond the technical bits of the job, that's where the value comes. You know, our veterans, let's talk about the gentleman that you cited here earlier. He was an infantryman, but he could recruit. He went at it tenaciously.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for him it's a mission.
Yeah.
Regardless of what that mission, it's a sense of purpose and a sense of mission.
Yeah.
Our veterans come in very agile. You know, it's funny, we talk about learning agility, and this has been a conversation I've had with people for years. Learning agility is critical. You got to be able to learn a lot of different things. But I'll suggest more important than learning agility is execution agility.
Sure.
Can you apply what you've learned in different dynamic and changing environments? That's what our veterans do. They have to. They're experienced at working in quickly changing environments, some of them very dangerous, life or death sometimes, but they're adept at that change. They can manage through change, and they can bring that capability to the civilian work world. But if we're not speaking the same language in the interview and selection process, if we're just hung up on the biases and well, he's infantry and we're not infantry, we've got to work with both the veterans to tell that story and the hiring managers, interviewers, and recruiting world to better hear the story so they can get to the value that our veterans truly bring.
This has been another great session around the disconnect of it. When you come back on our 3rd session, I really want you to talk about the framework you created to help organizations overcome the obstacles that we're just talking about.
Okay, great.
The biases, the miscommunication, the lack of resources provided by the military, the lack of understanding provided by the corporate side. And I know that's kind of your secret sauce, but I want you at least to lay out, Bill, for those that are watching, kind of the general framework that they need to operate in, that you're teaching organizations to do. Would you do that on the next one?
Glad to do it. Looking forward to it.
Look, guys, gals that are watching this for Recruiter Fuel, this is an important topic. We sometimes have fun on some of these sessions, and look, Bill, you're fun, but you know what I'm saying. This is a serious topic because there's we know where unemployment is right now, but yet we also know that the unemployment rate for veterans is much higher. They're there, they're available. We've got to do a better job of connecting with them where they're at. They've got to do a better job of connecting with businesses where they're at. Join us again 1 week from today. We're going to continue to talk about this framework that Bill's going to lay out for us. Excited to have you back. See you guys in 1 week.